Hello, everyone, and welcome to SCORE Fairfield County's live webinar on government contracting. Are you ready to receive government contracts? This is the first of a three-part series on government contracting, with the next two webinars in the series being held on April 12th and April 26th. I'm Bob Hogan, the webinar coordinator today and a business mentor here at SCORE Fairfield County. I'll be your host, and our presenters are Tanisha Baptise and Stephen Semaya. More on Tanisha and Stephen in just a minute. This series of webinars is being done in collaboration with the Southern Connecticut Black Chamber of Commerce, the Greater Bridgeport Opportunities Industrialization Center, the Small Business Development Center, and the SBA. And in that regard, I'd like to invite Diane Washington from the Connecticut Black Chamber of Commerce to say a few words. Diane?
Good afternoon. On behalf of the Southern Connecticut Black Chamber, SCORE, and the Greater Bridgeport OIC and Biz Hub, we would like to welcome and thank you for joining us. We also want to thank the SBA and the Connecticut Small Business Development Center for partnering with us on today's webinar. Our organization serves small minority and women-owned businesses by providing mentoring, educational and informational workshops, along with free access to bids and MBE certifications. Our goal is to create a level playing field for our small businesses. If you have any questions or want more information about any one of us, we will have our contact information in the chat section. Again, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Diane. And now some brief information on SCORE. Tanisha, if I could ask you to just move the slide. SCORE is a nonprofit national partner of the SBA with over 10,000 volunteers across the country. And locally at SCORE Fairfield County, we have over 100 volunteers with a wide range of industry, process, and subject matter expertise. And we offer three primary value-added services to small business owners. First of all, we offer free one-on-one counseling, and you can access that in person or by video, telephone, or email, whatever works best for you. And you can do that by using the yellow bit.ly link on the screen, or you can go to our website and click on the Request a Mentor button at fairfieldcounty.score.org. Secondly, we offer a wide range of educational workshops and webinars like the one today, roughly about 100 throughout the year. And lastly, we offer extensive resources on our website, including access to subject matter experts. Our next live webinar is tomorrow, March 23rd at noon, and the topic is You're Not Too Small to Go Global, Exporting Opportunities for Your Business with Joe Raycraft from the SBA presenting. You can find more specifics again on our website. If you're on our website, we also have a large number of recorded webinars that you can access on demand, and they cover a wide range of topics. Just some logistics for today. We have set aside time for Q&A at the end of the two presentations. And if you have a question, you can access it, or you can give the question at any time by using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. We will end our webinar sharply at 1 o'clock to respect your time. The session is being recorded, and the link to the recording will be available on the fairfieldcounty.score.org website under on-demand webinars within the next day or so. It's now my pleasure to introduce our speakers. Tanisha Baptise is the Business Opportunity Specialist for the Connecticut District Office of the SBA. In this role, Tanisha performs all duties related to federal government contracting, including the SBA's set-aside programs. Stephen Semaya is an SBDC advisor with 25 years of experience driving growth and cost reduction in multiple industries through strategy development, business process reengineering, hands-on operations, and business development. Steve has extensive experience in strategy development, operations management, process and organizational design and leadership, and he developed his consulting and client relationship management skills working with CSC Index, a boutique strategy and operations consulting firm. Now, my pleasure to turn it over to Tanisha and Stephen. Tanisha, it's all yours.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that introduction, Bob. And as Bob mentioned, we are going to make sure that we stay on time and on track today. So I'm going to go ahead and hop right into the presentation. If you have any questions as we go along, feel free to drop them in the Q&A section, and we'll make sure that we can address them as soon as we see them. All right, so the first thing that you might be asking yourself, why should I get into government contracting? So as you may or may not know, the US government is the largest single purchaser of goods and services in the world. So with federal government spending at $600 billion, give or take, annually. That is quite a figure. And I say all small businesses should want to kind of grab a piece of that pie. So the way that it works with the SBA, the way that we see it is the process of requesting proposals and evaluating bids, as well as awarding contracts, should always take place on a level playing field. So we want to make sure the government is considering bids from any qualified businesses, whether they are small or large. Federal agencies must always publicly list their contract opportunities, and some of these contracts are set aside exclusively for small businesses. So what we do at the SBA is we work with federal agencies and we impose goals on them. So these goals are to award 23% of prime government contracting dollars to eligible small businesses. So as I already mentioned, government spending right now is at $600 billion. So if you take 23% of that, that's $138 billion that's being set aside for small businesses. And it also helps that we offer counseling to help small business contractors both directly from the SBA as well as through our resource partner network. So here in Connecticut, I want to talk about some numbers of how we're doing in the state. There's always room for improvement, but I do want to throw up some figures for you all. So in fiscal year 22, all small businesses subcontracts were awarded at $744 million. So that was an increase of almost $28 million from fiscal year 21. To veteran-owned small businesses, we were at $191 million in fiscal year 22, which was an increase of about $739,000 from fiscal year 21. Woman-owned small, we were at 49 million, which was an increase of almost 3 million. Service disabled veteran, 168 million. So that was a decrease of almost $11 million. So there's definitely room for improvement there. In our 8A business development program, we had almost $9 million awarded in fiscal year 22, which was another decrease of 9 million from fiscal year 21. Small disadvantaged businesses saw an increase. We were at 239 million. And hub zones, we were at almost $10 million there. So if you look at the percentages, I also break it down that way as well. So all small, we had an increase of 4%, veteran-owned small, we had an increase of 0.4%, woman-owned small, an increase of 6%. For our service disabled veteran-owned small businesses, there was a decrease of 6% there. And for the 8A business development program, there was a decrease of 51%. And then for our small disadvantaged businesses, we saw an increase of 18%. And for hub zones, that's 7%. So I'm saying these set-asides, they may not make sense to you now, but once we get to the end of the presentation, I'll talk a little bit more about what these set-asides are and how you can find more information on those. So first thing that we're going to ask, is your business ready? Okay. So you want to do a little research. You want to check to see, does the government buy the product or service that you sell? A lot of times when people think government contracting, they think hammer and nails, general contractor type of work. But I'm here to tell you the federal government buys everything. And if you've been in any of my webinars or workshops or even met me, one thing that I do mention all the time is SBA's logo. If you're familiar with the SBA, 5 years ago, that was not our logo. So we had a new administrator come in. She wanted to do some rebranding. So she had our website refreshed. She had our logo refreshed. That was a government contract. So even, yes, graphic design is something that the government buys. Okay. Are you capable of fulfilling a government contract? Meaning, do you have the time? Do you have the staffing that will be necessary to perform on the contract? And if it's if you're in an industry that requires materials, do you have those materials to perform on the contract? In order to do business with the federal government, your business must be majority owned by a US citizen. That's 51% owned and controlled by a US citizen. You must have a company in the United States. Can you have some branches outside of the United States? Absolutely. But you must have a place of business here in the US. You must be organized for profit. The federal government does not contract currently with nonprofits, so you must be organized for profit. You have to show that you're currently generating revenue, and you have to make sure that you are credit worthy as well. You want to make sure you have an accounting system that produces financial statements such as profit and loss statements, balance sheets, cash flow projections. If this is not something that you are familiar with, when Stephen hops on, I'm sure he can attest to that. Our resource partners are able to help you navigate that type of financial statement output, whether you're using QuickBooks or some other software, or if you have a personal accountant. Do you have the cash on hand to purchase any working inventory if necessary? Do you already have federal, state, local government contracting experience? And don't discount any contracts that you've done in the private sector. That counts as well. And even if your business itself wasn't active in the contract, if you vended on a contract, if maybe you were an employee for a large prime contractor, you can gain experience that way as well. Do you know where to find contracting opportunities? If you're saying no, by the time we finish today, you will know exactly where to go to find contracting opportunities. Do you have a UEI number, which is a unique entity identifier? Do you have the North American Industrial Classification System codes and size standards for your industry? Are you registered in the System for Award Management? Okay. If all of this sounds familiar, don't worry, I'm going to explain it to you. I'm going to check. There's a Q&A. So Nicole Smith asked, what is 8A? I'll talk about that a little bit more at the end, but that is one of our set-aside programs for socially and economically disadvantaged business owners. Okay, so how do you get started? So your unique entity identifier. If you're familiar with the DUNS number, the General Services Administration did away with the DUNS number. It was a contract through Dun & Bradstreet that expired, and the GSA decided not to renew it. So now what we have is a unique entity identifier, which is a 12-character alphanumeric value. There's no rhyme or reason to the structure of the UEI. It's not something we expect you to memorize. So I always say write things down, whether you keep it in a digital file, if you keep it paper, or even both. When you do your registration and the System for Award Management, the System for Award Management will automatically generate the unique entity ID. So if you're registering for the first time, you'll be assigned a UEI as part of the registration process. Each UEI is unique. It's almost like a social security number for your business. SAM uses what's called entity validation service to verify that no existing identifier exists for the legal business name and address before it assigns you a unique entity ID. So you'll never have to worry about someone else having your same UEI. It's going to be very unique to you and your business. So next, you're going to hear people say all the time, NAICS code. That is the North American Industry Classification System. And so what the system means for classifying businesses by type of economic activity, and it's used in Canada, Mexico, as well as the United States. So the purpose is a lot of it has to do with the census. So it facilitates the collection, tabulation, presentation, and analysis of data related to establishments. It promotes uniformity and comparability and the presentation of the analysis. So again, a lot of that has to do with the census, but it's also used by contracting officers and the like to be able to identify what products or services that may be necessary for a job that they need done. Okay. So there's a structure. If you're ever interested, it's not something that you need to know. Don't worry about having to memorize this. No one will ever test you on it. But in case you are curious, the way that the NAICS codes are structured, it's 6 digits. The first 2 digits designate the sector of business that you're in. So for example, like construction, I believe that's 23. The 3rd digit designates a subsector. So let's say if you're in general construction or if you're residential construction, different things like that, you'll have a 3rd digit there. 4th digit designates your industry group. The 5th digit designates the NAICS industry. And then the 6th digit, oftentimes you'll see that as a 0. That just basically means that the NAICS industry and the US industry are the same. If they're different, there'll be a different digit there to designate the national industry. Okay. Again, that's just a little trivial information for you all. So where do you go to find the NAICS codes? I recommend that everyone goes to census to find your NAICS code. There is a NAICS.org, but a lot of times their data is behind. So like, for example, in 2022, NAICS updated. So it updates every 5 years. And the NAICS.org was behind. So the new NAICS codes that have been generated, people were looking at NAICS.org and they weren't getting the correct codes. So I recommend that you go directly to the US Census site to get it. And then you can just search by keyword. If you're not sure, like you can search by code if you know the code. But if you just need to search by keyword, you can do that as well. So I do have an example here. I search for computer programming. And then what will happen is you'll see a whole list of things that come up for computer programming. Go back one again, okay. So make sure that you're searching in the current year as well, because it'll show the last 3 iterations of it. So the first one was 2022, the second one was for 2017, and the third is for 2012. Make sure that you're searching in that first block because that's going to give you the most current codes. Okay. So what I came up with when I searched for computer programming was custom computer programming services, which is 541511. And it'll even show you how it's evolved. This particular NAICS code didn't have much evolution. It stayed 541511 for the past 11 years. You can even click on it to get some more information to drill down into the definitions as well. Okay. Another one that came up was computer training, which was 611420. Again, it hasn't evolved much since 2012, but the whole point of me showing you these is it shows you the exact definition of the NAICS codes. Another thing about the NAICS codes is, yes, you can have more than one. So if you have more than one, you have to choose a primary, and your primary has to be your revenue driver, okay? So whatever NAICS code is on your tax returns, and a lot of people don't pay attention to that. So I'm going to ask you, challenging you today, the next time that you file taxes for your business, pay very close attention to the NAICS code that your accountant or tax preparer is putting on your tax return. Make sure it is the correct NAICS code. All right, that'll be your primary. So if, let's say you do general commercial construction, but you also do a little remodeling, you do a little painting, you may do a little landscaping. You can have all of those as supplemental NAICS codes. Just make sure that you're able to perform under those NAICS codes should you be awarded a contract. So now that you've got your NAICS codes, it's time for you to go ahead and get registered in sam.gov. I want you to pay close attention to the website. It is always going to be free. It's going to be www.sam.gov. It's not .com, it's not .org, it's not .gov.net. People are very creative when it comes to creating these spoof sites. So if you're ever asked to present payment when registering for SAM or even renewing your entity in SAM, you're definitely in the wrong site. Back out of it, reach out to me, reach out to one of our resource partners so we can get you back on track and into the correct website. Okay. You are required to be registered in SAM in order to do business with the federal government. If you are applying for any socioeconomic certifications through the Department of Administrative Services with the state of Connecticut, you are also required to be registered in SAM, okay? It should take about 45 minutes to sit down and go through a SAM registration. I do webinars on SAM registration. Our Apex accelerators do webinars on SAM registrations. So if you need assistance, assistance is out there and it's all free. This is also where you're going to be assigned your unique entity identifier, and you're also going to be assigned a cage code. And this is also the payment system. So it facilitates paperless payment or EFT, should you be awarded a contract with the federal government. It renews annually. And basically that's just you clicking through your registration. If there's no changes that you need to make, you get to the end, you hit submit, you've been renewed. Again, you're going to get emails probably 90 days prior to the expiration of your SAM saying that it's time for you to renew your SAM. and it's probably going to say it's going to cost you about $1,500 to do so. That's about the going rate right now for some of these spoof sites. You do not pay for a SAM renewal. It is always free. Disregard any emails you get saying that you need to pay to register in SAM or renew a registration in SAM. If you've already paid for a SAM registration, I'm sorry, you're on the wrong site. Okay. How do you know you're on the right site? Anytime you're on a government website, you're going to see this American flag in the upper left-hand corner. It says an official website of the United States government, and there's a hyperlink that says, here's how you know. Make sure you always see that when you're going to do your registration. This is what sam.gov looks like. So what you're going to do to get registered, you're going to go home, you're going to click Get Started, and you're going to click through. Now you do have two options. You can either do a full SAM registration, or you can just register for a unique entity ID. If it takes you 2 seconds to get through this, you've only registered for a unique entity ID. You need to go through and do the full SAM registration, which again, on average takes about 45 minutes to get through. And you don't have to do it in one sitting. If you don't have 45 minutes, you can do a portion of it today. It'll save your progress and you can come back to it at a later time to complete it. Okay. And then once you click Get Started, it'll bring you to this site here where you have checklists. It shows you to where you can go for the FAQs and the learning resources available for your SAM registrations. So you can click through all of that, read through all that information, and then you can go ahead and get started with creating your account and registering. Just double check the chat, make sure we don't have any questions in there. Perfect.
Nicole, it's Bob. There was a question, or I'm sorry, there was a question from Nicole. Who?
Yes, I mentioned that about the 8A.
Okay, perfect.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay, so finding opportunities. Guess what? We're trying to make it a little bit easy for you all. You're going to find your opportunities right here. sam.gov should sound familiar, right? So you're going to go to sam.gov. This is where you can view procurement notices from federal contracting offices. Anything that's a bid over $25,000 will be listed in SAM. So types of notices that you will see: sources sought, pre-solicitations, special notices, combined synopsis, solicitations. You can add yourself as an interested vendor on contracting opportunities that are posted. So let's say you're not ready to go full out on a contract. You can just add yourself as an interested vendor. You can also watch opportunities to see the trajectory of it. You can also view interested vendors. So let's say you want to bid on a contract, but you know there's going to be some work that needs to be outsourced. You can see who signed up as an interested vendor. And that's also where, again, that word is coming up, the set aside, your total small business, or all of these alphabet soups right here. So again, I'll get into those toward the end before I turn it over to Stephen. And all of this is going to be very high level. We're not diving too deeply into any particular subject. So if you have further questions, we'll make sure you know the resources to go to. So when you're searching for opportunities in SAM, instead of being home, you already have your account, so you're going to be signed in. You're going to click on search, and you're going to want to look at all words, make sure that you have the active button checked. Under domain, you want to make sure the domain is contract opportunities. And then for an example that I chose today, I did all words. I decided to search for solar, right? Let's think outside the box, right? Only in Connecticut, and I wanted to make sure that it was active. So there was one that popped up, and this was for the Department of Veterans Affairs. So this was for roof replacements and solar upgrades for their veteran hospital in West Haven, which, fun topic, I used to work there and we did not have solar when I worked there. So it's great to see that they're becoming more green over there. Okay, so when you open up the opportunity, you can click on it, you can view it. It's all going to be public for you. On the side here on the left side, that's kind of your roadmap throughout the solicitation. So this particular solicitation is a sources sought. So when you click on the contract opportunity, you can see the notice ID, you can see the department and agency that it's with, any sub-tiers, and what office that it's in. Right there, it says if you're looking for help, it's going to direct you to PTAC. PTAC is now called Apex Accelerator, but they are the SBA's resource partner for procurement specifically. If you are looking at it, you're not quite ready to bid on it, but you want to follow it. You see there in the upper right-hand corner, you can click on follow, and it'll be added to your account for opportunities that you're currently following. Then you click on general information. You can see again the type of opportunity, the dates, when it was published, when the responses are due, when it becomes inactive. Pay very close attention to the time zone, right? So if a solicitation is, say you live in California and a solicitation is posted in Eastern Standard Time and you bid on it too late, you can miss the opportunity, and the contracting officer is likely not going to reopen it just because you missed it due to time zone. So you want to pay very close attention to time zones as well. Classification, it tells you what it is. This was original set aside. It's not set aside, which means that it is open. Anyone can bid on it. Product service codes, they're not required, but the NAICS code is what you want to pay attention to. This particular NAICS code is for engineering services, 541330. And again, the place of performance is at the VA hospital in West Haven. When you click on description, we're not going to read through this. This one was a very long description, but it shows you sources sought. You can read through the description. You can view any changes. If they changed or updated the description, that's a hyperlink that you can click on, and you'll be able to view all of the changes that were made to the description of the opportunity. Okay. Any attachments or links that are there, most of the time they're going to be public. If it's private, it's usually something by the Department of Defense, and you probably need a top level security clearance to be able to access it. So if you have access, you know you have access. So this one here, they have the SOW or statement of work, and then they also have the solicitation ID with more information on it. So these are clickable. You can click on them, open them up, review them. I opened this one up this morning, did not read it because it was 53 pages long. So just so that you know, some of them can be very lengthy, but you do want to make sure that you are reading through them. Okay. Nicole, yes, there are opportunities less than 25,000. They're not required to be posted in SAM. Some contracting officers may post them in SAM, but majority of the time they won't. What I recommend that everyone does is when you do your SAM registration, there's an SBA logo at the very end. It takes you to the SBA supplemental pages. When you put your information in there, you're in a separate database called the Dynamic Small Business Search. So for example, I do the purchasing for the SBA office here in Connecticut. If I have something that doesn't need to be on a purchase order or need to go out for a formal contract or anything like that, I go through the Dynamic Small Business Search. I had an example I'm going to use. I needed some chairs removed from our office. So I just went on there. I searched for furniture removal or moving companies. I found a small business that was able to do it. I paid them right away with a credit card because it was below the threshold. So that's the other thing. Make sure your business accepts credit cards. When you're doing your SAM registration, it's going to ask that question. Everyone should be checking yes, that you do accept credit cards. Everybody just nod. I'm pretending like I can see you. You all accept credit cards, right? It is a long, arduous process for us to be able to request a single check, to write a check to a company. It will take me about 30 to 60 days to be mailed one single check to write. We're not really going through that. We're gonna go with the company that accepts credit cards. Okay. So after the attachments and links, you have the contact information. So this one has the contract specialist, Dirk Kelly, has their email address as well as their telephone number. I can tell you right now, that's the VA direct line. That's not an extension. So they shouldn't have put that phone number, but email is probably how they prefer to be contacted, which is why they just sent a general number there. You can view the history of this solicitation. So this was the sources sought. It hasn't gone too far since then. It was just posted on March 13th. And that's it. I'm checking the Q&A again.
Yeah, Tanisha, there's a question in the chat from Denise. If your business is new and has not attained revenue yet, can you bid on a contract?
You can absolutely bid on a contract, but what I will say is if you don't have the experience, it's just like if you are interviewing for a job and you have your resume and you don't have a lot of experience, but you're going up against a candidate who does have experience, more than likely the contracting officer is going to go with the experienced business. I don't want to say that to discourage you. I say that's when you take advantage of any opportunities to subcontract on a prime, to be a vendor on a contract, to do teaming agreements, pursue joint ventures, a mentor protege relationships, different things like that. There are ways for you to be able to get that experience, but you can absolutely bid on contracts. You can. It's just going to be difficult to win. In full transparency, without experience, if you're going up against someone with the experience, it's going to be hard to beat them out. All right, I'm about to take it right back to Nicole's question. So Nicole asked about the 8A business development program. So when I've mentioned several times set aside. So the 23% that's set aside or reserved of prime contracting dollars that must go to all small businesses. Those are further broken down into socioeconomic categories. So 5% should be going to women-owned small businesses. Women-owned small businesses, it's a little bit tricky. It's based on NAICS code. So a lot of times a woman-owned business may think they automatically qualify. It's reserved specifically for industries that are underrepresented by women. Okay, small disadvantaged businesses, which includes the 8A program, which are socially and economically disadvantaged individuals. It's a formal certification, formal application process. 5% are reserved for those. 3% are reserved for businesses in historically underutilized business zones. Again, another formal application. So even if your business is headquartered in a hub zone, there's additional qualifications such as 35% of your employees also residing in a hub zone, but 3% are reserved for hub zone businesses as well. And 3% are reserved for service disabled veteran-owned small businesses, another formal certification. If you go to the SBA website and you click on the contracting tab, there's going to be a lot more information on each of these individual certifications. Again, this is a very high level training today. So if you want more information, go to our website. You can shoot me an email. I'll send you some information and some links, and I'll be able to give you more information on these set aside programs. Kevin asked, I did business with the VA years ago and was registered in SAM, but when I went to sign up recently, it said it couldn't find my small business in the system. I set up a new ID, but should I try to get that reconciled? So Kevin, I'm going to recommend that you work with one of our resource partners, see if you can find your old registration in there. If not, just stick with the new one, but I would encourage you to work with one of our resource partners, either the Small Business Development Center or Apex Accelerators, so that they can help you research that SAM registration as well. It seems odd that you would drop out of the system. Okay, so that would be a more specialized help that you would need there. If you qualify for more than one category, do you get the combination of monies, or is it the higher ranking category? So there's no precedence. It just depends on what the contracting officer decides to set it aside for. And sometimes it's based on where are their shortfalls. Most of them are short in the hub zone. So I recommend that if you qualify for all of them, go ahead and get all of them. It makes you more marketable. So you're not limited to one or the other, but there's no order of precedence. And so none are better than the other, basically. So they all have different advantages to them.
We have maybe a couple of quick ones in the chat. One from Tiffany, just a clarification. When you say experience, are you referring to already having a lot of experience getting contracts or experience in that specific area the contracting is asking for?
So business experience, right? In the industry, maybe I should say industry experience, managerial experience, different things like that. You should be listing past performance, just like when you're writing a resume and you're writing like your past jobs and different things that you did. I worked with XYZ company on this contract and we did this much work. They're just looking to know that you can perform and it's going to be high quality performance that you're getting.
Okay. And we have one last one from TK. When you are in tech software development and you have an offshore team, can you use your resources outside of the country?
You can, however, depending, there's a lot, there's the field, okay. There's a certain percentage that has to be sourced from the United States. It varies by country as well. So again, that's a very specialized question, and the contracting officer will have to refer to what's called the FAR to identify what percentage needs to be sourced from US, what percentages can be outsourced from other countries. But again, that's a very specialized question, and it really depends. It really depends. You'll have to do some digging in the FAR. And I don't want to eat into Stephen's time.
Yeah, so I think we do have a few more, but we'll hold those until after Stephen's remarks. So
perfect. So I just want to say you can also follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn. Okay, so follow us. SBA_Connecticut on Twitter and the SBA Connecticut District Office on LinkedIn. We are very active. We promote all of our resource partners events, our events that we're having locally, as well as national initiatives. And if you want to jot down my email address, you can reach out to me anytime. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Stephen. Thank you all so much. And I'll be around for the rest of the session.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Tanisha. There's a lot of great information, terrific detail also on a lot of specifics that I know people were looking to find out about. Thanks also to Bob and SCORE and Diana and the Southern Connecticut Black Chamber for having Connecticut Small Business Development Center join today. Just briefly, for those of you who know us, I'll try to keep this brief, but if you're not familiar with SBDC, I'll tell you a little bit about who we are and why we're a resource partner of the SBA. SBDCs have the most comprehensive business assistance network in the US, with over 60 SBDCs in all states and most US territories, with more than 1,200 advisors serving nearly 1 million businesses and aspiring entrepreneurs each year at no cost. Our services are not only no cost, but professional and confidential. SBDCs are hosted at leading universities, colleges, and state economic development agencies. We've got private partners, and we're funded in part by the United States Congress through a partnership with the U.S. Small Business Administration. In Connecticut, we're funded by the state, and we're hosted by the University of Connecticut School of Business. SBDCs have been around for 40 years, offering management and technical assistance to business owners and entrepreneurs. And the best part of the no-cost service, not only are we funded through taxpayer dollars, but everything is, of course, confidential that we work with you on. And especially when you get into government contracting, that could be an important point for you. In the state of Connecticut last year, the Connecticut SBDC served over 3,300 small businesses. We helped them access over $62.5 million in capital. And if you added the COVID-19 emergency relief, it would be around $85 million in capital. We've helped retain over 20,000 jobs for our clients, or add those jobs to clients that are starting up or growing. Speaking of starting up, we helped 191 business starts. Many of you may be in that position, and we are seeing a trend of more and more business starts. Say it's a significant percentage of the business. And of course, we also are working with our clients to help increase sales, which is why a lot of you are here today, to try to help increase sales through government contracting. What do we do? What kind of advising do we provide? We support small business in many ways throughout the business life cycle, from starting up, registering your business with the Secretary of State, business plans and financial projections, and supporting you in evaluating your cash flow and seeking ways to improve efficiency. We help prepare businesses for government contracting, and that involves a number of the different areas that are listed above, and I'll touch on some of those as we go through the presentation. I'll provide you with some tips and next steps, but in some of those areas Tanisha's covered well, but also where you can get help, and to realize that you don't have to go on this journey of government contracting alone. Between the SBDC and other SBA partners, there's a lot of assistance out there. So what kind of contracting opportunities? A lot of what we talked about so far was federal, somewhat state too, and importantly, Tanisha mentioned prime contractors. I just want to talk about these very briefly. I'll actually look at this slide right to left. Federal contracting is what a lot of people think of, and with good reason. The federal government, as Tanisha mentioned, spends a lot of money, buys virtually everything, and between all of the different agencies and departments, and sets aside contracts for small businesses, as was reviewed. The state also buys a vast array of goods and services, and this will be covered in detail during the next webinar in this series when the Connecticut Department of Administrative Services presents. It'll be covered then, but it's worth noting that several of the same steps you have to take for federal government contracting, as Tanisha did touch upon, are now required for the state of Connecticut, where they may have had their own process until recently. At the municipal level, think of purchasing by school districts, police, fire, safety, administrative departments, highway departments, sanitation for larger municipalities, et cetera. Just think of your own municipality surrounding larger towns and cities, and what are all of the products and services they consume? Again, technical services and consulting services in a number of areas, environmental among them. Frequently, a good place to start if you want to contract with the government, especially federal contracting, is with prime contractors. And these are private companies with contracts with the government already. They in turn buy parts, raw materials, and services from other companies. And so, because they contract with the federal government, they also have requirements in place to spend a certain percent with small and diverse suppliers. So they're also looking to do business potentially with you. The same requirements also apply, such as cybersecurity and others, and the contracting process may be a little bit easier. It may not for some, but it may be a little bit easier to kind of get a toehold with a prime contractor, being a sub to them, or having a contract with them, as opposed to directly contracting with the federal government, where those primes may already be entrenched. Or more than entrenched, they may be on long-term contracts and may be harder to get started. And you can grow with primes and get more business as you successfully deliver and develop relationships with those organizations. Now, one way to look at this is there are 6 steps to contracting success. Very briefly: evaluate, plan, prepare, register, pursue, and achieve. Now, I'm going to focus on the first 3 largely because those are the main areas where the SBDC focuses. You can get help contracting with other organizations, including Apex Accelerator, which really focuses, again, they can help across the spectrum, but they focus a lot on the registration, pursuing the contracts, again, identifying where they are. So I'm going to spend today, given our limited time, specifically focusing on those first 3 steps. So is government contracting for you? Tanisha touched upon some of these points. It's important and encouraging to know that, you don't have to figure all of this out on your own. The SBC's resource partners, including us, SCORE, the WBDC, and Apex Accelerator, are here to help you every step of the way. Now, the first question you ask yourself is, does the government buy what you sell? Depending on, again, which government contracting you're talking about, the answer is very likely yes. what is your experience? I won't go deeper into that now because it's been mentioned a couple of times, but it's important, as we'll talk about in a moment, to make sure you not only have the experience that they're looking for, but that you communicate that, you articulate it well. Now, the NAICS code, Tanisha spent a little bit of time on. This is important. I've had clients where I've seen the registration with the Secretary of State have one NAICS code, and it has nothing to do with their business. It's really important that you own this. A lot of the time,
What?
NAICS
What's that?
code,
Oh,
the
no,
North American Industry Classification Code.
it's not nonprofit. It's small businesses doing.
Thank you. In any case, so I've seen where they may have engaged someone to do their registration for them, and an incorrect NAICS code was registered either because they didn't understand the business, or perhaps they just, copied something over from a form they were working on before. I've seen it where the NAICS code on a tax return doesn't match what their business really is either. And I've also seen where the NAICS code on their filing with the Secretary of State doesn't match their tax return. It's really important to get your ducks in a row on this. One, of course, to make sure that your NAICS code reflects your business, so that when a contracting officer takes a look at your business, you are in fact what they're looking for. Otherwise, they're not even going to find you for the right category. You might be listed under something that you aren't really doing. So it doesn't take a lot of effort to look at this. You may need to make a change to your filing with the Secretary of State to correct it. You may need to change on your next tax return to make sure that you're current, but it's really important to get those together. And it says in the slide also, in addition to accuracy, your ability to promote. You might think, well, this is government contracting. I don't have to worry about advertising and marketing, but it is important to know how to effectively sell within the context of government contracting. From your capability statement and conveying your value proposition effectively through the proposal that you put in, and your ability to build relationships with contracting officers. There's still people behind these decisions. And while there are certain parameters they'll have to follow, there could be times when, a decision has to be made. Who do they trust? And that's a combination of past performance. But if you're new to this, how have you conducted yourself? How have you been showing your business to any of the contracting officers? And to continue to market and promote yourself and sell your products and services within the private sector. Remember, it's dangerous to put too many eggs in any one basket, including the government contracting basket. So you really can't take your eye off of your non-government contracting business while you're doing this. You should have the ability to focus on both. Next. You need a plan. Why do you need a plan? Well, there's several elements to planning, and you need to think about what you need to be able to get to fulfill a contract with the government. So first you decide you're going to go forward, then plan to do it. And of course, in a minute, we'll talk about starting to execute that plan to prepare. But one of the things to think about is, can you afford to pursue government contracting? What are the changes you need to make? Do you have enough other business to sustain your cash flow? If you're not going to be coming under the $25,000 limit and getting paid with a credit card, and you're going to be waiting for payment, how long is that going to take? You should know that in advance and be prepared for it. It's not only with the government, but again, with prime contractors, they may have terms that they pay you in 45, 60, or 90 days. Can you do that with your current cash flow? Can you afford that? Can you establish the line of credit so that you can and get that done in advance? Do you think your financials are in a position where you would be able to get financing? And do you have the ability to apply for that? And again, there's assistance for all of this. Also, do you have the capacity to service the contract? Do you need to invest in equipment? If so, can you afford to do that? Or can you access financing to access equipment? Do you need to hire? Again, if you're going to scale up for a government contract or any contract, it's a tough labor market. Do you know where you're going to be finding people to bring in, how you're going to be recruiting them and onboarding them and retaining them? I hear stories every day about the difficulty to hire and also about the difficulty to retain. People move for an extra 50 cents an hour at the drop of a hat sometimes. So what is your plan to bring people in? How are you going to hang on to them if you need to do so to service a government contract? What about your suppliers? We've all been either experiencing or reading about supply chain issues. There's not much tolerance once you have a government contract for failing to meet that contract. Do you have alternative, or do you need alternative suppliers to mitigate supply chain risk? What other contingency plans do you need to put in place? Think through all of that. What could happen, even if it hasn't in the past, that you need to have a plan in place for to ensure that you can still deliver, even if things don't go as you originally or as you historically have experienced. And what do you need to have in place to sell? As I mentioned, a capability statement, solid proposal, marketing and relationship building, and finding where to look for the kinds of contracts that you want. How do you prepare? Once you have a plan, well, yeah, start executing that plan, of course. But after determining if you're ready to move forward with the government contracting and you put together that plan, you need to do an analysis of your financial position to answer some of the questions we were just asking under plan. You need to articulate and refine that value proposition, get it down on paper, ensure that it matches the bid requirements of the contracts that you're pursuing. Make sure that you can deliver what you're promising. Also, look forward, right? Some government contracts are going to go out several years, whether this is looking forward from a technological point of view. Are you agile enough to be able to change? Are you staying on top of developments in your industry to be able to make sure that you're delivering long-term on a government contract? What steps can you take to get a line of credit or other financial instruments in place for growth or for covering cash flow, for buying inventory in advance? What can you do to get that onboarding plan and that recruiting plan in place? Start to actually do these things. Start to identify where you're not just, I know I need to get them, but where am I getting them? What am I going to be putting on paper? Who am I reaching out to? What partners am I going to leverage? Do you know whether the entity with which you're going to contract has additional requirements? Some government prime contractors are moving to 100% digital, models, not just for paperwork, but even for product development. And so you have to be able to do everything in 3D digital modeling. Others, I still hear some government prime contractors say, we still do things with 5 copies of a purchase order. And if somebody wins a contract with us, they better be ready to hire an admin just to service our contract. So you have to know who specifically you're going to be contracting with and if they have specific requirements. Now, how can the SBDC and other partners help with this? Well, specifically the SBDC, we can help you with each of the steps that I've mentioned, and our advisors have experience that can guide you. We have proprietary tools, including one that we call Bottom Line, to help with financial modeling. This includes the financial projections and we can put in different scenarios to help you analyze whether you should move forward, whether this business is going to be profitable for you. Is it going to help you achieve your business goals overall? And also to help you to put together the pro forma financial statements that you might need if you need to engage a lender. We also subscribe to a number of different tools and databases that might be prohibitively expensive for you to access on your own. Vertical IQ, for instance, is one where we can help you with market research if you need to do that. I'm going to go a little quicker through the specific tools because I'm keeping an eye on the clock here. Industrious CFO, just an example of one more of our tools that is great for benchmarking. Do you understand how your company compares to others in your industry? There are a number of different benchmarking reports that are listed here, for instance, that can help you to understand what your position is. And also, if you're finding that you're performing extremely well in some areas, well, that's something else that you can communicate and you can leverage, that you're in the top X% according to a particular industry database, so that you can share that. That's going to potentially help you communicate that you're a safe bet when it comes to bringing on a new supplier. Without further ado, just tell you a little bit about, how do you connect with us? If you're interested in working one-on-one with a business advisor at no cost, you can request advising services by going to our website, which is on the screen. It's ctsbdc at uconn.edu. I'm sorry, .uconn.edu. You can just click on the red button that you see shown there and request services with business advisor. Again, SCORE, Apex, Accelerator, and the WBDC are also great partners for you. And of course, if you're already working with one of our advisors, reach out to them directly. Let them know what you're trying to do. Let them know your objectives, and they can start to help and to work with you going forward. And with that, we'll turn this back over to Bob for Q&A and for closing remarks.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Steve. We do have a few minutes for questions here. So just a reminder, if you have a question, please use the Q&A button and type it in, and we'll take as many as we can up until the top of the hour. The first one is from Paul Murphy. Are there government contracts for trucking companies?
So I typed that in the chat. Yes, there are.
Okay, perfect. And again, we don't have any open questions right now, but if people do have, we do have time for one or two last questions.
There's one in the chat, Bob. I don't know if we can answer this conclusively, but it's an interesting one and quite timely. Is being on TikTok problematic if we want to do business with the government? Should they delete their account?
Yeah,
Tanisha,
Tanisha answered that in the chat, but maybe it would be useful maybe to elaborate on it there, Tanisha.
And social media in general. I'll make a very broad comment, Tanisha, and then you do go to any specifics. You know, just like Tanisha used the analogy of applying for a job. You don't want anything out there on any of your social media that isn't going to portray you in the light that you want to be portrayed in, right? Especially, you know, and this is both for your personal and your business. If you're the principal of your business, it's very easy to find out, you know, what are you posting, you know, and make sure that you're careful with that and that it's representing what you and your business, you know, are, what you believe in, and how you want to be perceived by the rest of the world. Tanisha, I don't know if you have any specifics on TikTok or others.
So as I mentioned in the chat, right now with TikTok, the only guidance that I've received is that I had better not try to access TikTok from any government issued devices. So we are banned from using TikTok, especially in any official capacity. There's nothing that prohibits so far us from awarding a contract to business who does use TikTok. And honestly, if they're banned on all government devices, that contracting officer shouldn't even be able to verify whether or not you are on TikTok. If it's banned, we can't see it, right? So that's the only guidance I have as of March 22nd, 2023 at 12:57 p.m. All things subject to change.
Okay, Stephen, there's one for you in the chat. Is are SBDC services provided to out-of-state businesses?
Well, every state has an SBDC. So the Connecticut SBDC can only work with you if you are located in Connecticut, have a significant presence or office in Connecticut, and it'll have to be the business owner that authorizes that. They can authorize someone else to talk to us on their behalf. So for instance, if there's a division that's headquartered in Connecticut, but you know the business is still private and is owned by someone out of the state, that person can give permission to someone in state. The other instance where we can work with someone is if they have they're intending to open operations in Connecticut. We can help them establish that. Again, get either register as a foreign entity or establish a new legal entity in the state of Connecticut and move forward from there. But it has to be not just we're kicking the tires. We think Connecticut might be a good idea, but you know we've moved forward and we do intend to do that, and we can come and kind of demonstrate that. But every state would be happy to work with you, and again, several of our territories as well.
Okay, one last one from Stephanie. Are there administrative opportunities in the government contracting area?
So that falls under professional services, and that is probably the top, believe it or not. A lot of people think it's manufacturing, but the majority of contracts are awarded to professional services, whether that's administrative, consulting, different things like that. And I did see people asking like who to reach out to about these things. Again, work with our resource partners, small business development centers, Apex accelerators. They have bid match programs available. There's a lot of resources out there for you all. And then sign up for SAM. And while you're on SAM, do some market research. Type in your NAICS codes under contracting opportunities. You can look at active and inactive. You can see who's gotten awards before. So there's a lot of market research that you can do on your own that our resource partners can assist you with as well.
Okay, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for questions today. Just a We had a lot of inquiries in the chat. Just a reminder, the webinar is being recorded, so you can access the materials and the voice recording on our website, fairfieldcounty.score.org, within the next day or so, and you just go to on-demand webinars. Our next live SCORE webinar will be tomorrow, March 23rd at noon, and the topic is "You're Not Too Small to Go Global: Exporting Opportunities for Your Business," with Joe Raycraft from the SBA presenting. And again, more specifics on our website. And also just a reminder of the next two in this series that will be on April 12th and April 26th. Again, if you'd like to take advantage of the free individual counseling, you can use the link that you see on the screen, or you can go to our website. And if you could kindly fill out your evaluations after today's webinar, we'd really appreciate it. It helps us a lot going forward. On behalf of SCORE, thank you all very much for attending today's live webinar. And in closing, a big thank you to Tanisha and Stephen for an excellent presentation today. And thanks again, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks, Stephen. Thanks, Tanisha. Thanks,
Thank you
Diane.
very much.
Thank you.
Take care now.
Bye-bye.